Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Campbell Talk. I am your host, Richardo Jackson, and tonight we have with us Mr. Ederick Johnson, who is going to be talking to us live about HIV and what's going on in our communities and what we can do to be a part of the fight against HIV to end it, and also what we can do to raise awareness and to become more knowledgeable about HIV for ourselves and for our community, for our loved ones, for anyone. So let's just jump into it. We'll be right back with him. And I guarantee you're about to love it. So invite your friends and loved ones and everyone you know to come sit and watch. And also share, like and share, like and share, like and share. If you have any comments or feedback, please put them in the chat. We'll do our best to provide you with a response. Welcome.
Are we on?
We are live and in living color.
Oh, sure. We definitely live, but I don't know about living color, not in this state, honey.
How are you today?
I'm my pronouns is white woman, white straight woman. I think that's the only be safe here.
That's your safe pronouns?
Yeah, that's my safe. Who are you? I'm a white woman, child. Just a little dark, a little dark.
At this point,
I spent a little too much time at the men's sauna at Club Fort Lauderdale. Yes.
All right. You know what? We will center. We before we get into it, because I'm gonna allow you to introduce yourself. But before we get into it, I guess we can center our conversation around like HIV and the Black MSM.
Okay.
It is Pride Month.
It definitely. I got my flag. Hold on. I will get up, but I got on pajama pants on. Okay. Yes, it is Pride Month. I got my
flag. You got all of them. All of them.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Ederick Johnson. I love long walks on the beach. I'm still trying to meet God's match for me. I top, you bottom. Just playing. I mean, I was serious, you know. I top, you bottom. But nevertheless, no. My name is Ederick Johnson. I am me. I moved to South Florida 12 years ago with $1,300 in my pocket to attend Florida Memorial University. That's what I did. I attended. I didn't finish, but I went through. Couldn't finish. It was expensive. But been down here 12 years. In these 12 years, you know, a lot of things have happened. I found love for 7.5 years with my ex, Nick Nack, and started working HIV prior to me getting here. And I think what landed me to be on the map was two things. Two things happened. Marvell Terry from the Red Door Foundation at the time in Nashville. It was Nashville or Memphis. One of those in Tennessee. He recommended me to be a part of the second cohort for the Young Black Gay Leadership Initiative sponsored by the CDC. And then my next claim to fame, I guess, will be the Kiki Project with Lorenzo Robinson, who was the visionary of the Kiki Project. And the rest is history. From there, after that, I went on to serve. You hired me actually with the Florida Department of Health. I'll never forget it. You was doing something like this, and I got on on your Facebook Live, was like, I need a job. Y'all hiring at the health department? You remember that?
I remember. I said, "Yeah, send me your."
Yes. And I did 4 years with the state. If you include the school board, 5 years with the state, 5 beautiful years. Um, was hired as the prep navigator. I'm sorry, and then from there, within a couple of months, I was hired as the MSM coordinator, and I remained there until I resigned last month. And currently, I work for Yale University School of Nursing as a interventionist facilitator with the HPTN 096 study. HPTN study 096. So that's what I'm doing, and it focused on Black MSM. It focused on Black MSM. So that's a little bit about me. You all know I'm very active in the community. Belong to many organizations. Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I am a Prince Hall Mason, serve as worshipful master for New Era Lodge number 69, and so many other things. Oh, and they just named me yesterday. I am the Grand Marshal for this year's Stonewall Pride Parade.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. It is definitely an honor. Definitely. I don't know what you do as the Grand Marshal.
The Stonewall Parade is coming up this month.
Next week.
Oh shoot, I got to be there.
And I'm, and so many people in past history, we have whitewashed Stonewall.
Of course.
And we fail to forget that it was. Did that me? Was that me or you? That wasn't. That was you.
We'll just say it was something.
That was something. But we whitewash Stonewall. We failed to realize that it was Black and brown trans women that started the revolution.
I got into a whole fight with that the last time.
Yeah. And you know what? I was speaking for Nova Southeastern University Pride Fair on this past Saturday. So my workshop track was what's the T with my identity, respecting my identity. And one of the participants there asked a question, Ederick, why don't we see so many Black gay men in Wilton Manor? I was like, girl, do you really want to know the truth about that? I said, we're not welcome there because you whitewash everything. I said, even with the Stonewall Parade, you whitewash it. And I even tell people, but that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother time.
Well, I mean, it does exist, and I think even within every community and every
within the LGBTQ community, there is racism, there is stigmas,
prejudice, and all.
Yes, we do not respect our trans women of color. We don't respect our trans women. We don't respect our lesbian women. When people think of LGBTQ, they think of old white men. That runs that like this. There's a society for gay men and white gay men running.
Well, I mean, that's also adding to the gap in the services and the resources that are available for Black, LGBTQ plus community members.
Yeah.
I think in some regards we stick together, we are one, and we work together. But there are, people do come with their own baggage into this space, and that's unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I want to tell you about this group, BCPH, the Boston Congress of Public Health. They're actually hosting what do you call it? Their summer public health intern programs. I think in July and August, or June, July, and August. And basically, it's like where young adults can actually go and learn about different, learn how to become physicians and doctors and things of that nature in this field. That was definitely me.
I'm about to say.
In this field. And so it helps them to be able to navigate those spaces, and they can learn and find mentors and also get connected to resources that can kind of like give them a leg up or help them to move full speed ahead. But it also has kind of like a a social justice, a social justice and a healthcare justice feel to it as well. So it is quite it's quite something. So I can send you some more information about it actually.
Actually, I was nominated for the Boston, the thing that you were saying for, they had some type of leadership thing,
Yes.
and someone nominated, they sent me the thing, and I think they said I had to pay like $40. I was like, oh girl.
Yeah, I think there's a $50 membership fee.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was like, in order for me to be nominated, I have to be a member. I was like, oh girl, not
yeah.
right now. Times are hard. I'm living in the days of DeSantis.
Oh my gosh. And you said it was such a good straight face. I'm gonna learn that one day. All right. So let's jump in then. We're gonna be talking about HIV and the Black LGBTQ plus community. Uh-oh. Um, what happened?
You start. I mean, you said
Oh,
let's jump in.
you were like doing the.
Oh, I was done. I have no rhythm, so I had a good little thing. I didn't want to keep on going and ruin it.
Okay, I hear you. All right, so let's talk about it. What do you think it's going to take for us to end HIV in the Black LGBTQ plus community, or just the LGBTQ community?
That's an open loaded question.
I know.
First, because people would disagree with me. First, it starts with the individual person.
Mm-hmm.
But if the individual person don't have access or knowledge, I think the thing that is that we need to have a conversation about, when it comes to dollars and where these dollars are being allocated to, especially in the state of Florida. In the state of Florida, from the CDC, it goes through, your state department. But what happens when, your leadership, like your governor, is not agreeing with certain lifestyles? Then I think we need to put the money more so in the community hands. There needs to be a access, a pipeline, like we can go to, like in Christianity. The difference between Christianity and Catholicism, I think one of the things is, with Christianity, I just go to God. I go to him, I go to Jesus.
Right.
I think there needs to be a pipeline from community to these funds.
Sorry, my phone rang. I'm putting it on do not disturb. All right, cool. Yeah, there have to be a pipeline that gets straight to the community, because I think once it starts filtering down, what ends up happening is that people go through all these different. You have to go through all these different points just to access the resources that was meant for the community to provide the services in the community. But then it gets watered down, and then along the way, people can ultimately decide, I guess, who or where they want to funnel the money to. So it all depends.
Yeah. So and that's it. There needs to be a way that community can have access to these dollars without, have to go through all these loops and channels. Because let's break it down. When we talk about HIV in the Black LGBTQ community, what are some of the things? I mean, let's look at Fort Lauderdale. When people think of LGBTQ, they always think of Wilton Manor. And one thing that I hate, yes, hate is a strong word, but I'm going to say it. The one thing I hate, especially with community-based organizations in the area, when they think of outreach, they automatically go to Wilton Manor. And I despise that. Why? Because Wilton Manor has access. Those white gay men know where to go. But if we look at it, when you look at 33311, and when you look at places like Pompano, Deerfield, where is the nearest clinic to get tested?
Even when you start thinking about south of there, like Dania Beach, Hollywood,
yes.
Where
when we talk about access, there should be a way that I can step outside and, within 2 miles, I can go somewhere to get tested. And those areas, those zip codes that we say are highly, we call them red zones. But when you look at those red zones, what resources are we doing there? Yeah, we do outreach and things, but what dollars have we put in that community as far as a clinic providing, stationary care? Not no mobile unit, but stationary care.
No, it makes sense.
It on Sistrunk. There's not a Black clinic on Sistrunk.
Is there a clinic on Sistrunk?
Girl, what?
Just asking a question.
I mean, girl, I need my tea for this.
And listen, and that's probably part of the larger conversation is that people when we talk about resources, a lot of times people don't talk about accessibility, and kind of like serve and also resources that are relevant and important to the community. And it's just and a lot of times people don't think about it that way. We can build new buildings and throw like some podiatrists in there or something, I don't know, but I mean, like I'm not knocking like the services aren't great, but we also need to figure out what are the things that are most important to those communities, and how can we provide those resources to alleviate that, because the healthier we make the community, the better off they are at moving their lives forward, moving their community forward, and their health, which is their wealth, increases over time. But
no, it's right. But when we think of ending the epidemic, and when we think of the Black MSM population, when we think of the Black LGBTQ population, what are the programs that are being funded for such things?
Well, you got to go over to the other part.
Like I tell people all the time, I use this as an example. The Kiki Project was a success. Like, we have numbers to prove it, that people were being impacted by the message. People were being impacted by the services. People were being impacted by the outreach. Why? Because the Kiki Project was the only project for Black MSM, Black and brown MSM, and we did unconventional outreach, going to the sex clubs, going to the sex parties, doing testing there. I'll never forget, I did my first Kiki, it was my third Kiki at a green light, red light sex party. So before, and the incentive was free if you got tested for HIV and you attended the Kiki session, you got free access to the sex party. So my thing is this, we were meeting them where they were at. I don't like the philosophy that they need to come to us. No, we need to go to them.
Facts. And I just want to put this disclaimer out there. If you're watching this, before you jump and start saying Black LGBTQ folks are being promiscuous and whatever the case is, it's the same stuff that's happening on the straight side. There's a lot of swinging parties going on, and a lot of sex clubs, and a lot of stripping clubs, and all this other stuff. And straight people are having just as much, if not more, freaky deaky sex out and about just as much.
But our circle is small,
right? So I just want to put that out there, because I know some people are like, might come in and watch this, and they might say, "Oh, look, they're doing this. This is why they're." Da, da, da. But let's just put it with the cookies where we all can reach it. The same stuff that's happening with Black LGBT or LGBTQ plus community is the same things that are happening in the heterosexual community. And so let's not act like it doesn't exist. It may not exist for you because you're not actively participating, but let's not pretend like it isn't.
But it exists.
That's my soapbox moment. And I step down now. Yeah. So no, but I mean, yeah, I think ending the epidemic is going to be such a huge task. And I don't think that anyone really understands specifically what it is going to take. However, I know that education definitely have to be part of it. And you mentioned access absolutely have to be part of that. And also, you need us.
We have to be at the table.
Right. And
You're making
don't treat
decisions.
me like the kids. Don't put me at the kiddie table. And I love to use this analogy, developed by me, is I think that sometimes the way how resources are administered and the way how people gain access is kind of like Thanksgiving, right? When you go in and you sit at the kiddie table, you don't get to decide what's on your plate.
No, it takes
Somebody
wisdom.
comes with a plate already fixed, put it down in front of you and say, eat it. So don't just invite me to the table and give me a prefix plate. Invite me to the table, but let me sit at the adult table, because when you sit at the adult table, you get to decide what goes on your plate. And I think that's what people don't understand is sometimes they'll say, okay, we have this plan, we're already working it out. And so now we just need to validate it by getting a few black folks around the table. And then we get to the table and they're like, okay, here's what we have, take it or leave it. That's not inclusion. That's not being inclusive. That's not inviting us to be part of the process.
No.
Inviting us to be part of the process would allow us to say, here's the plate, this is the menu. You can eat or take whatever you want, as much or as little as you want. And I think that is what we're asking for.
Asking to have access to the table, asking that our voices be heard. It's just like, with the state of education, you have people who have never been inside of a classroom, taught in a classroom, but making decisions for educators. It doesn't make sense to me. How can policies, procedures be put in place to end the epidemic, but don't have us at the table?
Right.
It's puzzling. It's puzzling. I'm not talking about on national level. I'm just talking about locally or statewide.
Right.
Let me rephrase that. I actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that, because I think the governor does have a council on HIV, and I do know that there's some local individuals who sit on that council.
There's a Florida Black Leaders Group, I think works to ensure that there's equity and inclusivity and that Black voices are heard on a statewide
But how is
level.
that working with a governor like this? I'm wondering, is this 2023 or 1963?
Listen, I think we all are in that space right now where it is challenging. It is absolutely challenging to even think of what the next couple of years are going to look like.
How
And
long he
what's
has
sad,
left? And he's running for president.
well, you know, well, if he doesn't win, we have him for 4 years. But I think what it is that the challenge that I would say to whatever is going on with this political climate right now is saying a lot of times people are always talking about, oh, we don't need to have diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, if we don't need to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, how come half of the representative in the Senate, in the Florida Senate, are not women? How come at least half of them are not Black? How come at least, there isn't a more like a more concerted effort to make sure that all people, all residents of the state of Florida are represented?
Well, I mean, it goes back to voting. Let's be honest. In Broward County carries the majority of the Democratic vote in the state, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Less than 30% of Democrats in Fort Lauderdale County of Broward voted in the past election. Less than 30% of Democrats. When we say prayer without work is dead. I can ask the Lord for something, but if I am not pulling my weight and putting some work behind it, then what's going to happen? So we're not voting. And yet people say, well, we're not the majority. We're the minority. The numbers adds up. It adds up. So this is just not a gay thing now because we can't do this by ourselves. I mean, even if you look at the civil rights movement, Dr. King and Bayard Rustin, they didn't do these things by themselves. If you look at the NAACP and the over 110 years of history within the NAACP, it did not become what and who it is today by itself. We had some people who didn't look like us.
Right.
So getting back to the Black LGBTQ community, it's going to take all of us because we're all a part of a marginalized and oppressed population. Whether you're a woman, a Black woman, Hispanic woman, Latino, Latina, Asian, lesbian, we're in this together. We're in this together. That's why it puzzles me when I hear Black women, degrade Black gay men. Like, sis, we're in the same struggle. It's the same struggle. Like, so it's going to take a unified effort. It's going to take a unified effort to do this, but it's going to go to voting. It's going to go to voting and ensuring and holding each other accountable. Like I tell my friend, did you vote? Why? And you have those people, my vote don't count. Look where we at.
Vote anyway. Vote anyway. In the off chance that it actually counts, if that's how you feel, in the off chance that it actually counts, vote anyway. But not only just vote. I think more people turn out to vote for the president than they do their local election. And that's where people need to be more civic minded, is to say, okay, fine, let me see what's going on in my local election. Let me see the people who I need to put in these positions to make sure not only your city and your county is running correctly, but that this way you can have better representation. You can't have nice things if you don't vote for it.
Nope.
So I think it's important that be a part of the process. And it seems to me that every time there have been some progress made towards accessing resources, accessing, gaining access to certain like policies and procedures and things like that can make life better for people, I feel like we go through like a political whirlwind, and then next thing you know, all of a sudden, now we're dealing with something else again, and else again, and it seems like, I don't know. I grew up in New York City, so I'm used to like the governor and the mayor's changing office, but like the essential functions and systems that are in place continues to be the systems that are in place. They don't just lose their focus or change focus because, oh, we have a guy over here who, he don't, his focus is on cancer because his wife had cancer. So now everybody, that's the focus. And then somebody over here, oh, their nephew or their uncle died from overdose. So now opioid awareness is like their thing. And this, because if we only focus on the ills of our communities based on who is in office, then we need to get somebody in there who's had a family member or a friend or somebody who died from HIV, because that's like the only way we're going to get attention.
Can we nominate? Listen, what I got to do to run? I just need people to. I just need people to donate to the campaign. Let's get this moving. Who I need to go join the Dolphin Democrats. What I need to do? I mean, what do I mobilization? I just, who gonna throw me these dollars? I will run. Because I am no longer bound and no longer chains holding me.
Right.
I'm free. So what I got to do, because
there's
because also I tell people, even if we have a Democratic governor, if we don't have a Democratic Senate and House and things like that, it ain't gonna work. Yeah, because we're still gonna be outnumbered.
I would just like people. I just don't. I feel like the politics have just become so super territorial, right? I get it. You want your person to get in there and whatever the case is, and I understand that. But can we get to a place where we recognize that all Americans need to live? all Americans need to have rights and liberty in the pursuit of happiness. And just because you don't appreciate an LGBTQ person being in a relationship with another LGBTQ person, then guess what? You don't. How is it adversely impacting your life? It doesn't. That's the
At all.
question you need to ask yourself. How does this adversely impact my life?
It don't.
And then can we shift the attention onto things that are important? Like I have a 5-year-old and I have a 15-year-old. And they're going to high school and going to going to preschool at the end of this year. Safety is a concern for me. I don't want to be at work or be home and my phone is ringing down because now I'm like watching every single news report like paranoid as hell because I don't know when the next kook is going to just go up in there and start doing something stupid.
Our society, let me rephrase that. Our elected officials, whether we elected them or not, the ones who are representing us, are more focused on movies, on gay influence, on woke culture, that we're not focused on protecting our children. You thinking, protecting them from a gay character is protecting them, but not implementing laws. You're more quick to implement laws to ban books and movies than implement laws on gun reform, on due process to get a gun, mental illness, security. You're more prone on, gay influence. And another thing with this damn gay influence, a lot of us grew up, a lot of us, especially the generation who's doing these laws, a lot of them grew up watching The Cosby Show, but never became a doctor or a lawyer. A lot of them grew up watching Different World, but they ass never was enrolled in college. A lot of them grew up watching Will and Grace, but can't even keep a damn best friend. A lot of them grew up watching Grey's Anatomy, but never went to medical school. We grew up on a lot of TV shows that were influential, but didn't do shit to us. Didn't. Family Matters, and you don't even know who your baby daddy is.
Because somewhere along the line, people have convinced themselves that they have to now assert themselves to control everything. And the reality is that you don't have to control everything. I think if you make policies that are fair and equitable, then you won't have to sit here and be all the way left or all the way right.
But they don't think that. They don't think that. I mean, it's the same thing in 1963. They didn't think that blacks should vote. Why is African Americans voting is still being renewed every couple of years?
A lot of this is about, the threat of they don't want to be the minority. And that's what the problem is. They feel like they need to be the majority and they need to be in control. And as long as they can continue to do that, they'll do it. And if they can't, then they'll change laws and rules to make it happen. I mean, think about it. The majority of the people in this country who are having abortion, they don't look like you and I. So which group are we trying to make sure that they keep having babies? I'll take a wild guess. But I mean, the roundabout way is going around it because it's like, okay, well, let's just go around in circles and do it without coming forward and just being out and about what they're doing. But at the end of the day is that, we're all humans. We all have rights. We have to live here. And so at the end of the day, let it be fair, let it be equal. I mean, one simple thing that I think, politicians should really ask themselves is the next person who comes after me, if they subscribe to similar mentality or thoughts, and then they do it for their side or for their people or for people who look like them, how would that impact them? And I think a lot of times people don't put the shoes on the other foot. They just keep moving, and no one stopped to reflect and say, let me think about this. Because really and truly think about it. What if all the women in America got together and say, you know what? You don't want us to have an abortion? Guess what? After you've had X amount of kids, you need to have a vasectomy. Or if you've had if you've had um, two kids out of wedlock by different baby mamas, you need to automatically have a vasectomy
Right.
and
So
guarantee you almost that abortion will be legal
we
tomorrow.
need to stay out of people's bedrooms and we need to stay out of each other's bodies.
Right. And if you notice, none of the rules we're so concerned about women having babies and limiting their ability to make choices around that. When we're not sitting here saying, "Oh, where's the bill that prevents men from impregnating all these women?" So this way we don't have a bunch of people just running around fatherless, motherless, parentless. Where are the resources to put into the foster care system? So this way we can make sure that kids have the resources that they need. Families, how about an equitable approach by providing resources to families so this way they can continue to support their kids? Since it's the people who are pushing these laws, they live in their big mansions with their 5, 10, 15 bedrooms, and they don't have no foster care kids in their homes. Can you
Nope.
imagine? Like, if you're going to fight for a bill like that, I feel like you should be able to demonstrate that you have fostered or adopted at least 3 to 5 kids out of the system. Then you can talk to me about it, because then that gives you legitimacy. But when you're sitting there saying, "Oh no, I'm pushing these laws," and whatever the case is, and then you go home to your 5 bedroom home in your nice quiet neighborhood, and there's no kids running around your house, no nothing, and you haven't done the work, then you don't get a say. And that goes back to everybody have to be able to participate at a certain level. And it's like, no, you don't have a vagina, you don't get a say.
At all. Like you can't tell me. But that's the world that we live in.
You see what I'm saying? And then, but even just thinking about it is like, even just kind of like jumping back, I should say, what do you see are some of the challenges that are hurdles that need to be overcome in terms of like HIV education, HIV prevention, just towards ending this HIV epidemic?
We have to do more than just what we've been doing. We have to, because what is effective HIV outreach and education? We do it, but how we measuring if it's successful? Because just because I table an event and there's 300 people that come to my booth and we talk to them or get them, yeah, that's a start. But we gotta go break some barriers.
Right. Like, how many of those people are actually walking in the door for services?
We need to, one thing that's been a passion of mine is getting into the churches, because majority of our population are in the churches. But when you have big churches, who take advantage of the community, they talk about equality, but they don't have an HIV ministry.
Well, this one lady from a church here in Palm Beach County had said one time she needed to find the MSMs, and she's like, "I'm asking you because I want to know, where do we go and outreach to the MSMs?" And I said, "You can start at your church."
Right, we're there.
And she just like looked at me like shocked, like, "Oh, what?" And I was like, "You can start at your church." And I had to explain to her, like, MSM is men who like having sex with men, but they don't identify as gay or bisexual or any of those LGBTQ terms. These are people who are just like, "I'm married, I have kids, I have a certain type of lifestyle, and I do what I do on the low, and that's that." They're not going to be at the gay bar. They're going to be at the local church. They're going to be line dancing at the local community center. They're going to be at the local restaurants and bars in town that everybody goes to. That's it. There is no specific place. But you have to build those relationships.
Yeah, and we just have to come up with more innovative ways of reaching the population, more innovative initiatives on trying to reach. But we got to do something.
Yeah, so we have a program here at Campbell Holt Solutions, and just a plug: if you are want to get tested, feel free to give us a call
Do you offer prep?
for free HIV tests. We offer PrEP, we offer PEP, hepatitis, and HIV care and treatment. So yeah, absolutely. We have a program
Hold
called.
on, put that on there. I'm about to take a picture and send this to one of my friends now. Okay, I'm about to tell them that they live in West Palm Beach and they're looking for prep services.
Okay. We have a what do you call that? We have a program called iSafe, integrating stigma awareness and family education. And basically it has a couple of wings, right? So a person can say, like a parent can say, you know what, I have teenagers, I need to talk to them about safer sex and sexual health. The parents can make an appointment for an hour to meet with us, and we can educate them and help them to give them the information so they can talk to their kids. The other thing that they can do too is that they can schedule an appointment with us, and then basically we can then talk to their kids with them present. So this way they can have that conversation. Or if their kids are like in the upper end of the teenage years, they can say, you know what, you talk to them, give them all the information, all the facts, like what my sister does. My sister is like, here's your nephew, sign him up,
Nah.
and exactly. He's like, I know. She's like, I know, but yeah. And so this is an opportunity for people to not only just learn about sexual health for themselves, but also to be able to talk to their families and their loved ones about sexual health. So this way it becomes a normal conversation. Because a lot of times people feel like they're not going to have the right conversation, or they're going to feel scared or whatever. But it's about having those conversations. And so far, since we've started in January, actually in February we started, we've done over 108 hours of um, iSafe family education, and that's what we're talking about. Is like, how do we get to have, and these are like individuals and families doing this,
Don't
right?
forget, if you need me to come and do my presentation of identity and sexual orientation, gender identity, um, respect is entitled "Respect My Identity." What's the T with the identity?
Okay.
If you do that with the parents, so we can understand, pronouns, where we can understand the thoughts and the process and what real support really means.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing too. It's talking about pronouns. We were having a conversation with a couple of folks in my office the other day, and we were talking about pronouns. And one of the conversation that come up where people were just like, "Oh, all these pronouns," and I have to, they're like, "Oh no, I have to say he, him, his, or whatever the case is." And I said, in the 19 whatever 80s, 70s, we knew people by their names. Their names was we were using pronouns without saying a pronoun. We were
Mhm.
using their names because we know by their name that people were either male or female. So we assumed their pronouns based on what their names were. So when we saw like a Calvin or a James or a Charles, we knew that that would have been like a male. And
Mhm.
then when we saw like Marianne, Jean Ann,
We knew that
yeah,
was.
right. But then we got into this, a little bit further down the road where now people have names that are of places and objects and things like that. So, like Brooklyn. If I see Brooklyn Jackson in an email to me, I don't know if Brooklyn is a male or a female.
Mhm.
If I see Alex, is that short for Alexander or Alexandra?
If
Shannon, Sean.
we're living in an age that is best to ask.
Right. So now it makes sense why pronouns are important. So pronouns are not an agenda to like change how people think or feel or whatever. It's just basically helping people to understand that I am the gender that I am. That's
But,
it.
but people also need to understand there's a difference between gender identity, gender expression, and sexual identity.
And for a lot of folks, they just think everything is all on the same, and
No.
they need to
That's why
stop.
you need to book me to do these comprehensive classes and book me. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And and it's remember even one time in every email there used to be like their Mrs. or Mister, and we used
Child,
to
my pronouns is where the money resides.
where the money was like, and that used to be how we address people, and then eventually we got away from that because then even the married ladies were like, "I'm not a mistress," and it was like because mistress became a dirty word. Like who knew, right? So
It's it's
you
we
know,
can go. We
because
can.
I grew up calling my teachers Mistress So and So and Mistress So and So, and and now it's like if you say mistress, people get offended because then they think you're mean, like you're the mistress to the married man or whatever. But at the end of the day, we don't do that anymore. Now we just say Mister or Mrs. Just to be polite, but it's the same thing. You use a pronoun to be polite. It's not that hard. You're not relearning anything. Always been using it. Think about it this way. People are like, "Oh, they and them and whatever," and it's like, if you come home and your kids are not in the house, what's the first thing you say? Where they at? Where they at? Right? Or if you send them to the store, if you send your kid outside to go call the rest of your kids to come inside, and then the kid come back and he's like, "Oh, mommy, they coming." We're using pronouns.
Yeah, we use them and just didn't know we were using them.
Right. It's just a realization of like we've always been using them. We've just been a little bit more, we're just being a little bit people are just being a little bit more vocal about using them or saying which specific one applies to them. But at the end of the day, there is just cause for that. Brooklyn, Alexander, Shannon, you don't know if that's a male or a female.
At all.
Star, and the list goes on. But I think people just need to just relax, just chill out. Like y'all is just hyping things up too much, and let's just get there. And just for the record, we can just jump into this right quick. HIV, because we do this little educational spiel all the time. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. You cannot get HIV from hugging, kissing, from tears, from using the same utensils, using the same restrooms, or taking the same shower. The only way to know if you have HIV is to get an HIV test.
Not an
And
AIDS test.
not an AIDS test, please. Don't go in there asking people for an AIDS test. You cannot catch AIDS. You cannot acquire AIDS. You have to have HIV, and then it progressed into AIDS. But you cannot just be like out there, like some folks. I catch AIDS. I'm gonna get this AIDS test because I don't want to catch AIDS. You can't. You can't. You just can't. We got to stop that. There's plenty of information out there, so we just need to cut that out. We need to move the ball forward.
Yes.
I think people sometimes just choose to be stuck with the information because they want to say, "Oh, I don't want to learn this, or I don't want to do this because it's going to force me to do this, or I'm going to have to adjust to this or adjust." Living is learning. The more you learn, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more you move forward. You just can't stay stagnant. And if you stay stagnant, the world is moving forward without you.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind. And if you want to get tested, the number is right here on the screen. Call us and find out how you can get tested. If you want to set up an educational class for your kids or for yourself, also call us and we can get you scheduled there. The classes are usually about 30 minutes. The first half is some information we provide about HIV and STDs, and then you get one-on-one time to kind of like ask questions about specifically to your situation. And so that's kind of like how the classes are built. So we spend an hour with you, but you get time to ask questions that are relevant to you, that are pertinent to you, that you are engaging in. So this way we can better move the ball forward and better work as a community, because that's how we're going to end HIV. It's part of how we're going to end HIV. It's not the whole thing, but it's part of it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I definitely thank you so much for having me. For those who would like to know more about me and the work that I do, please follow me on Facebook, Eddie Enrico at Facebook, and please, be cautious. I ain't been saved all my life, so judge not my post don't judge me by my post.
Absolutely. And he's a very, very lively and active character out in the community. And
Out of the closet and into your beds. Hey.
There you go. And he's a musician, he's a minister, he's all of those things. And I don't know where he find the time, but he is just
And going to Wawa. That's my part-time job. I go to Wawa today in a little bit.
absolutely. But we're gonna have a day. We're gonna have a day.
Yes. Well, I will see you and hubby at the parade next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for having me, my former supervisor who hired me in the health department. Yes. Now look at us.
Right. Look at this now. It was great having you and seeing you. So be well.
Thank you. I love you. Mwah.